St. Louis Cardinals are 8-9, and if you would have told me you get through that stretch right against the Phillies, against the Padres, the Dodgers, you get through that stretch, and the Marlins are in there, and the Cardinals are playing the Athletics now. But you get through that stretch, and you're 7-9. Now you're 8-9 after a game with the Athletics, and hopefully they can at least take 2 of 3 from the Athletics. Hopefully sweep them. That would be ideal. Honestly, it wouldn't have shocked me. It wouldn't have shocked me. Now I hope the Cardinals can really start to make some hay. The problem is that the Cardinals are struggling in areas that you wouldn't think they should be struggling in offensively. And the manager is making some questionable decisions, as we all thought that he might, given the state of things last year and some of the decisions that were made last year as well. And the Cardinals just feel, and I don't know how far we want to get into it today, because today is going to be a shorter episode, but they feel incomplete. They feel like the last 2 or 3 years. You know how sometimes maybe people have lapses in their memory, or they block something out. I think Cardinals fans and the St. Louis Cardinals, there's a gap here where the Cardinals just didn't develop talent and starting pitching. And now we have a lot of questions. We have a lot of questions regarding Jordan Walker, for example. Is Jordan Walker going to be another prospect that comes up through the Cardinals system, much in the same vein as Steven Piscotty, much in the same vein as Randall Grichuk? Is he going to be another one of those guys, or is he going to be a guy that can be a difference maker for the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years? Because right now, Jordan Walker's not hitting. Jordan Walker's batting 188, an on-base percentage of 245, 313. He hits the ball hard, but he hits the ball on the ground too often. And if you were to give opposing pitchers truth serum, they would tell you that, oh yeah, hit the ball on the ground as often and as much as possible, because infielders at the major league level, they are going to get to those ground balls 9 times out of 10. They're going to turn them into double plays. They're going to turn them into outs. And it's not a big deal. Just don't hit it in the air. Don't hit it in the gap. Don't hit it down the line. There's a lot of potential with Jordan Walker, but the Cardinals feel incomplete. There's a lapse here. There's a lapse in developmental talent, even at the positions, because we're dealing with the reality of a Michael Ciani. A Michael Ciani who has, in 14 games played, he has 10 at-bats. He's batting 100. What's he doing here? Like, seriously, what's he doing here? What's the purpose of that? Defense? I guess. A stopgap player just until Dylan Carlson can come back, or until Tommy Edman gets healthy, whenever that might be. And talk about another situation that was just completely completely bungled, rather. Wrong use of words. And then there's Victor Scott, and Victor Scott is athletic and he's great. And he just, it's more forgivable for Victor Scott hitting 091, because you see the flashes there, and you see the speed, and you see the defense, even though he had that one terrible game against Philadelphia. But you see it with him. But it's just too soon, and he's not ready. And he's being forced into this position. And I'll be the first one to admit that I wanted Victor Scott on the team. I wanted him to make the club. I felt he deserved it in spring. And a lot of metrics pointed to the fact that he did, and then the injuries compounded, and he made the team. The problem with this St. Louis Cardinals team is that it's incomplete. Right now, you don't have a dependable center fielder that can hit the ball. Arenado's come around lately, but he's not hitting home runs. He's not driving the ball. He's hitting 286, but his OPS is 701. Paul Goldschmidt, who's notorious. I'll give Paul Goldschmidt this. He is a notoriously slow starter. He's hitting 183, 523 OPS. Not good enough. You're lucky you're 8-9. You're lucky that the starting pitching has been as good as it has been. I mean, it's been average. Sonny Gray being back is extremely nice. I mean, Sonny Gray feels, and I know I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Sonny Gray feels like a reincarnate of Chris Carpenter, the way he goes about his business. And I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying, up to this point, Sonny Gray has been exactly what the doctor ordered for the St. Louis Cardinals, and I hope he can keep it up. I think he can, but that just stopper at the top of the rotation, the Cardinals frankly need another one of those guys. That's the truth. I don't know if they're going to make a trade. I think that's probably the most likely outcome where it's going to have to come from. It's going to have to be a trade somewhere in season. But the Cardinals starting pitching overall has, I mean, there has been, don't get me wrong, there have been moments where you go, oh my God, that's horrible. And Miles Michaelis has not been good, 5.82 ERA. Kyle Gibson has not been good up to this point, 6.16 ERA. But Lance Lynn, for the most part, been pretty solid. Steven Matz, for the most part, been pretty solid. And Sonny Gray, now that he's back in the rotation, has been extremely solid up until this point. And I think, given the state of how I thought the starting pitching would be, of how I thought it might be, I'll take that. I'll take an average starting pitching group because we knew that was going to happen. But what I can't take is an average offense. If the Cardinals' offense is average, this is not going to be a good season. It's going to be a repeat of 2023. And the Cardinals really need players like Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Jordan Walker to start hitting. Now, have there been bright spots on the offense? Of course there have been. Mason Wynn. I don't know what Ollie Marmol is thinking. Mason Wynn, I don't care what kind of promises you made to Brendan Crawford about playing time. Mason Wynn has been one of your better players. He's probably been your best hitter. By the numbers he has been. I mean, he's hitting 370 for crying out loud, 888 OPS. And we all know what his defensive range and his arm is at the shortstop position. He's elite. He has been a bright spot. We know that Nolan Gorman's going to be up and down. We know we're going to get home runs. Nolan Gorman has hit three home runs thus far. We know he's going to be up and down. We know the batting average is not going to be high. We know what we're going to get from him. Brendan Donovan looks like a dude. Brendan Donovan looks good. He looks like he should be a part of the St. Louis Cardinals for years to come. The problem is the St. Louis Cardinals, I'll go back to the theme for the episode. This team is not complete. There is a lack of developmental talent. And there is an overestimation of what we can expect from our prospects. Ergo, Jordan Walker. Ergo, Victor Scott. It's a consistent thing at this point, right? And I get it. It's hard to hit on these prospects. But we're at a point with Jordan Walker, and it's been 16 games. So maybe I need to put the brake. I'll admit, I'm a fan. I'm coming at you from a fan's perspective. We're getting to the point with Jordan Walker where we need to see him stop hitting the ball on the ground. We need to see him consistently hit the ball hard, but in the air, drive it on a line. We need more from him. And the good news, guys, he's 21 years old. I'm in this weird place where I want to be hard on him, but I also need to recognize that he's a young player. He hit 16 home runs last year, 54 RBIs, 267 average. I think he's going to be fine in the long run. I think this Cardinals offense, before the season, I said, I think it can be top 5. That was one of my bold predictions. It's going to be top 5 in Major League Baseball. But now I'm thinking, well, shoot, if Paul Goldschmidt is aging, if Nolan Arenado's aging, if Jordan Walker's not as good as we think he's going to be, then man, this could be not good. But we're seeing positives as well. We're seeing Mason Wynn emerge. And for the love of God, Ollie Marmol, can we stop having these lineups on the getaway day being not involving Mason Wynn. Mason Wynn needs to play every day. He's 22 years old. If there's a time to ever worry about whether or not we can keep a guy fresh, it's not when he's 22 years old. It's when he's 32, 33, 34. I mean, now's the time to play him. Again, you're not 12-5. You're 7-9. You're 8-9. Enough with these getaway day lineups with Brendan Crawford. I don't know what kind of back alley handshake deals that you made with him, but give me a break. Play Mason Wynn, please. It's not like there haven't been days off in between there. If he's hitting, it's baseball 101, Ollie Marmol. It's baseball 101. I don't know. Is the guy playing well? Yes, he is. Is my team struggling to hit? Oh, wait a minute. Yes, they are. Okay. Well, perhaps I should play the best players. Maybe I should do that. Maybe that makes sense. It's infuriating. So hashtag Mason Wynn needs to play more. He needs to play every day at shortstop until he comes to you and tells you, hey, coach, hey, Ollie, I need a day. My arm's not feeling well. My hamstring's a little tight, whatever. That's fine. But where you are right now in the standings in the season, you're dealing with a 22-year-old who's playing extremely well, and you need to let him play well. You need to keep him in this groove. Baseball is very much a sport that don't mess with what's working. Don't fix what ain't broke, man. Don't do it. You risk running. You risk things that you don't even comprehend down the road. That's the way baseball is. Some other positives. Lars Nootbaar is back. I'm looking forward to him being a key part of this offense going down the stretch. Another positive, Wilson Contreras is hitting really well. Ivan Herrera. It makes you wonder. Ivan Herrera and Wilson Contreras might be one of the best catching duos in Major League Baseball. And it makes you wonder if the Cardinals knew that this was coming with Ivan Herrera, should they have shelled at the money for Wilson Contreras? Probably not. If you give him truth serum now, we didn't know what we had in Ivan Herrera. And again, it comes back to the St. Louis Cardinals not realizing what they have, not recognizing the talent that's within their own organization. It's a failure. It's a failure. And that's why this team is incomplete. This team is incomplete because there's a lack of MLB-ready players, pitching, position-wise, ready to go when Tommy Edman gets hurt, when Lars Nootbaar gets hurt. Victor Scott's not ready. And I really hope that Jordan Walker proves that he is ready, because I think he can. I think he can be really good. But we need to see more out of him. And if this Cardinals offense doesn't get back on track, if Jordan Walker continues to struggle, if Paul Goldschmidt continues to struggle, Nolan Arenado, same deal. To a lesser extent, Nolan Arenado's been a lot better lately, but still, we haven't seen what we need to see from them. It's not going to be good for the St. Louis Cardinals, because the way this team is built inherently, it's not really built on pitching. It's not even really built on defense. It's predicated on their offense. Their offense needs to be good. And if their offense isn't good, then they're in a whole lot of trouble. That's just the truth. And I do think they have dudes. I do think Arenado's going to be better. Goldschmidt, Walker, same deal. But those are also players that you have to play every day, just like Mason Wynn, right? Mason Wynn needs to be playing every day at shortstop. I don't care. This is a 22-year-old. You're not going to wear him out, Mr. Marmol. You're not going to wear him out. Okay? As long as he's playing well, he deserves to be there. That's the decision you made. I don't care what kind of back alley contracts or back alley handshake agreements that you made with Brendan Crawford to get him here. He needs to recognize what a baseball team needs and when they need it. That's just a fact. And if that's not common sense, I don't know what to tell you. I don't, because it's just the reality of the situation. So the St. Louis Cardinals, it's not the end of the world. I'll end with this and I'll close with this. It's not the end of the world that they're 8-9. It really isn't. They have the Athletics again, for 2 more games. At the end of that, they could be above 500. And then they go back home and they have Milwaukee, who Milwaukee's playing very well, but it's an opportunity for the St. Louis Cardinals to take a series at home from a division rival. If they do that, guess what? We're talking they're 10-9. Now they're 12-10. And I'm not as concerned, right? That's the way baseball goes. If you have a good couple series in a row, if you string together 5 or 6 wins, it can happen. It can happen really fast and it can turn really fast. So the Cardinals, again, like I said, they have 2 more against the Athletics. They have 3 at home against the Brewers, 3 at home against the Diamondbacks. Then they go back on the road against the Mets at New York. And then they finish the month of April at Detroit. So it's not the worst schedule in the world. Again, the Athletics, Mets, Tigers, they do have the Brewers and the Diamondbacks, but they're through that rough stretch that they opened the season with. So they're back. They're back on with an easier schedule. And then you look ahead to the month of May. They finish with the Tigers. They have the White Sox, the Mets, the Brewers, the Angels, the Red Sox, Orioles, Cubs, Reds, and then they have the Phillies again. So it's an easier month of May. You should see more wins come through, and I would expect more wins for the St. Louis Cardinals in the month of May. And again, this team, the way it's constructed, as I've been saying all episode long, it's incomplete. They're lacking real depth and we're seeing it now. Their depth is being tested. Victor Scott is showing that he's not ready to take on center field, but they have no choice but to play him in center field. And maybe some of these veteran signings make more sense now, the Brendan Crawfords, the Matt Carpenters, because they don't have depth at the minor league level if injuries come up. I mean, that's what we're seeing. It's an area, honestly, where I thought the Cardinals were good. They were set. I thought Alec Burleson, Victor Scott, some of these guys at the minor league levels were ready to ascend. And the truth is the Cardinals needed those guys, and they've called on those guys, and now there's no more guys behind those guys in AAA. And then some of their starters are struggling. So there's really no depth there. And it's startling. You thought it was the case at starting pitching, but it's really the case too. And with these position players, because they're relying on Michael Ciani, right? Michael Ciani has a position, and I'm not trying to dog on Michael Ciani. It's just the reality of the situation, right? So again, this team is incomplete. They're lacking another frontline starter, and they're lacking real depth, positional depth. And we'll see what they do about it. Because right as this team is constructed right now, they're not a playoff team. I'll just say that right now. 16, 17 games in, they're not a playoff team. Maybe they can change my mind. Maybe they can. And it completely contradicts the bold prediction at the beginning of the season that I thought the Cardinals would win the NL Central. But they need to be a lot better than they've been so far. And offensively, it's startlingly bad offensively. And we'll see if they can turn it around. And let me know what you think. And don't forget to give the podcast a 5-star review. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video on YouTube. Thank you again for listening. Thank you again for watching. One more thing before we go. I promise that we get to it at the jump. Whitey Herzog passed away, age 92. And again, for somebody like me, Whitey Herzog, it was before my time, right? Whitey Herzog. But those teams in the 80s, the 82 World Series, I have the bobblehead right behind me of Whitey fishing. And I have Ozzie Smith there. I have the 85 World Series pin, the I-70 series against the Royals. So many memories that Cardinals fans remember. And it really is an iconic person in Cardinals history that has passed away. And just to think about the people that we've lost recently, Mike Shannon was one of those people for me that my earliest memory is sitting in the bathtub listening to Jack Buck and Mike Shannon on the radio. I'm sure many Cardinals fans out there those are their first memories. And sometimes I think about Mike Shannon, and I met Mike Shannon outside of Busch Stadium as a kid, and we were starstruck, me and my parents, because we know who that is, and that's a voice who was brought into your living room, into your into your house every day, and bringing us the action that we couldn't be there to see, and it meant so much to us. I mean, and he couldn't have been nicer. And I'm sure Whitey Herzog was this guy to many Cardinals fans who have fond memories of those teams in the 80s. And the truth is, sports, whether some people want to poo-poo them, whether some people want to dismiss them and go, oh, those athletes, we hear this talk all the time. Athletes, they're making millions of dollars, and the society doesn't need to prioritize sports. There's so many more problems in the world, blah, blah, blah. And that might be true. I'm not saying that it's not. Clearly, baseball is not the most important thing in the world. But what sports do, and what people like Whitey Herzog do, and people like Jack Buck do, and people like Mike Shannon do, and now Chip Carey, and before him Dan McLaughlin, what they do is they are a symbol of Cardinals baseball. And sports, Cardinals baseball, the reason you're listening to this podcast, it brings us together as people under a common banner, under a common ideology. We all root for the St. Louis Cardinals, and it's a beautiful thing. And when somebody iconic dies, it really takes some of those memories and it brings them back to the surface, and it makes you remember how good those times were. If you're a Cardinals fan listening to this, you remember those games in the 80s. You certainly remember the 82 World Series that the Cardinals won. I remember people talking about that when I was a kid, when the Cardinals won in 2006. I'll never forget where I was. I was on a bus. We had just played a varsity football game, and my dad texted me and told me that the Cardinals had just won the World Series. And the first thing that I had to do is I had to tell my other friends that were Cardinals fans that the Cardinals had won the World Series for the first time since 1982. And it was 82. That was what was brought up. The Cardinals hadn't won since 82, and that was Whitey Herzog. And I just wanted to take some time on this podcast to commemorate a Cardinals legend, and from all accounts, a great person, a great man, a great mentor. So we're going to tip the cap here. If you're on YouTube, you're going to see my messed up hair. Tipping the cap to Whitey Herzog. Rest in peace, Cardinals legend. And thank you so much for all of the great memories that you've provided to Cardinals fans throughout the years. Thank you for all those great memories. And until next time, let's go Redbirds. Let's go get one for Whitey tonight. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye, everybody.